morning, Journey. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you live and in person today, but Lydia and I are off celebrating her birthday in Chicago with some friends today. If you're friends with Lydia on Facebook or have her phone number, go ahead and wish her a happy birthday today. When Pastor Mark had told me he was going to be going through a series on Nehemiah, I'd let him know that when chapter 6 came up, I'd be willing to share. So even though I couldn't be with you there in person today, I wanted to take a few minutes to share some of my story with you. The book of Nehemiah will always hold a special place to me. See, this isn't the first time we've gone through the book of Nehemiah at Journey. Back in the spring of 2011, we were going through a series called Nehemiah, Building a City Within a City. God had been preparing me for this series for a while before that. Months earlier, I was in a growth group with some friends at Journey, and the leader of the group had challenged some of us to start regularly reading our Bibles. While this might sound like an easy challenge to some, it actually was a big deal to me because I hadn't been consistently reading my Bible and connecting with God. As I started to read my Bible and connecting with God, God started talking to me clearly. He was telling me I needed to get honest about some things in my life. Now, I had known I needed to get honest for a long time, but fear kept me from doing it. Fear that I would lose my marriage, my kids, my friends, even my ability to lead worship here at Journey. But on May 1st, 2011, that all changed. That Sunday, Pastor Mark was teaching from Nehemiah chapter 6 on distractions, just like he was today. As I was trying to remember back to this day, I actually asked Mark to send me his sermon notes from that day. And I actually even took a picture of him standing on a chair, acting like he was building the wall like Nehemiah as he was sharing the message. So as I looked through those notes and I looked at that picture, it brought me right back to that day. So there Mark was, standing on a chair right next to the drum I had been playing on the worship team that day. And he said these words. He said, "What distractions are you facing today that's keeping you from what God has asked you to do? Maybe God is asking you to do something radical." And then he said this. Maybe fear is distracting you. Fear. I knew it right as I heard it. That was exactly what was distracting me. As I heard that, I felt a nudge from God. That was exactly what I was letting distract me, fear. I knew that day was going to be the day if I didn't chicken out. The sermon ended, and on the way home from church that day, my wife at the time had asked me a question about something that had happened years earlier. It wasn't a new question. I just never answered it honestly until that day. That day, that one answer changed my life forever. Over the next few months, I started to get honest with her and others about sin that had been happening in my life. I stepped off the worship team for a year as I dealt with this. I met weekly with one of my mentors, who I am forever grateful for. He guided me through a biblical restoration process at the time. I also went through Celebrate Recovery. It was hard. Sin has consequences. My marriage didn't survive. Well, I'm still saddened by the earthly consequences sin has. I'm also so grateful to God for not giving up on me, for loving me, for pursuing me. for his grace and mercy. His love he has shown me and continues to show me has changed my life and my perspective. After I rejoined the worship team a year later, worship became real for maybe the first time in my life. The weight of the sin I'd been hiding was gone, and words like God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failures and pride. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. From the song So Will I, rings so true to me now. God is using my failures for his glory. God has given me opportunities to help other guys that are going through similar situations. He's using my failures to make me a better dad. He's blessed me with awesome kids, and 2 years ago he blessed me with a great wife. And he's teaching me how to be a good husband. I'm so glad that I chose to lay down my distraction that day of fear. But that brings us to today. I tell you my story of grace to give God glory, but I know I'm not alone. I know some of you are being nudged to do something radical for God today. Maybe you're like me, and you're scared of what might happen. Well, take it from me. Trust God. He's got it all worked out.
And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear.